What is up, guys? Today we will be starting my new series that I plan on doing on this channel called What It Means to Be a Hero. And for the first character, we are going to do Enji Todoroki, aka Endeavor. But before that, because I don't believe in clickbait, I'm going to tell you how to make the cheeseburgers that are in my thumbnail. You take some Patrick Cudahy applewood smoked bacon, sizzle it in the skillet for about 5 minutes so that it cooks up a little. Then you take either your choice of cut, ground beef that is either chuck, sirloin, round, Angus, whichever you prefer, and then you're gonna mix it in a bowl, nice and good. Make sure it's nice and the bacon is woven throughout. Then you're gonna also make sure you dice the bacon first. I should have mentioned that. But you're gonna dice the bacon, mix it in, then you're going to season it with your choice of black pepper, cayenne pepper, chili powder, garlic powder. I like to mince a little red onion in there. And then you're going to form your patties just fine. And you're going to put them on the grill. And then I personally use the Wisconsin sharp cheddar. But you can, of course, use whatever cheese you like. I prefer using hard cheeses or real cheese, not American plastic, due to the fact that it can actually stay on the grill longer, potentially pick up a little bit of the smoky flavor, and allow the burgers to, really blend and like sit in there a little longer. With that out of the way, let's begin discussing Enji. Now, a lot of people like to say that the first introduction to Endeavor is during the sports festival, but that's half truth. The first introduction to Endeavor is actually within the first 4 or 5 pages of the manga, where we get Izuku Midoriya discussing the Hero Society as a whole and how All Might is the number one hero. Endeavor is the hero who has solved the most crimes. The first idea you get of Endeavor is a good one, an effective hero that has solved more crimes than anyone else in the world. However, as the sports festival rolls around, you get Shoto Todoroki's perspective on him, or rather his perspective on Enji Todoroki, not his necessarily perspective on Endeavor. And as he discusses Endeavor, you find out, oh, this guy beats his wife, beats his kids, and treats them as experiments essentially in a lab. And that's kind of all you get out of him from his sports festival interactions, from the way he tells Todoroki that he is his perfect creation or his masterpiece, and that his goal is simply to surpass All Might and nothing else. And that's why he is there, and he is disgracing him by using his quirk improperly, which I guess that doesn't really belong in quotes due to the fact that Shoto was objectively not utilizing his quirk to its fullest potential, being that he was refusing to use his flames and is currently still undertrained in the usage of his flames, though he has shown marked progress since then. So, as we move forward, though, there comes a significant turning point. And this turning point for the Endeavor is actually the turning point of the series for many characters, including Bakugo, All Might, and that's the Kamino incident. When All Might falls, even before it, when Endeavor sees All Might's back and realizes that the gap in power, the symbolism behind it with the canyon, just he was always chasing something he could never reach, and in his mind there's a bit of a wake up call there, like this was never attainable. I've been spending and wasting my life chasing something that I could never, ever conceivably achieve. And once you see him have this realization, it doesn't really, stick out that much because he goes home, he's the official number one hero now, and you see he's just big mad about it, much to Shoto's pleasure. But the takeaway there is that he realized that he had been living wrong and hopelessly that entire time of his life. But we don't really get even an inkling of that or a proper indication of that until far later in the series, during the remedial course arc. During the remedial course arc, Endeavor genuinely goes to cheer on Shoto, and he sits down with All Might and asks him, what is the secret to being the symbol of peace? And the reason for this is he realizes that crime is rising, and by all rights, it shouldn't be. Because when you think about it, the new number one hero is technically the old most effective hero, the guy who solved the most crime. So from that perspective, it makes very little sense that crime would go up. If anything, you would go, damn, the guy on top that everybody's looking at is the hard ass of society. But the reality is that Endeavor at the time had treated his job as a hero more like being a police officer. Heroes are essentially celebrities, which means they need to be more than just cracking skulls and solving crimes. It's fine to be just those things, but you need to be inspirational. Like that's what the spotlight is on you for, to show people, hey, this isn't like you can't go this way because these are the people who will stop you, and these are the people who will inspire you, and these are the people who make you feel like things are okay. Being a fist of the law does not tell people that things will be okay. It does not motivate somebody who might be considering a life of crime that, hey, you know what? I can still make it through this. That's not the sensation you get when you look at Endeavor at all. When you look at Endeavor, you see a man who will light you on fire and kick your ass in from like here to there, from Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday to Friday to Saturday to Sunday and back again. We take off Mondays. What can I say? So he's realizing this, but also the internal change within him is, why am I even a hero in the first place? What made him become a hero? And so as you're sitting there, you see Shoto using the flames from his quirk that are essentially Enji's flames to warm a child after going down the ice slide. And All Might says it's simple. The answer to why we do this, or like what it means to be a symbol, or what makes you need to be one, is right in front of you. And from there, Endeavor's, the cogs in his head start turning more and more. He starts really thinking about all the things he's done, the way he's lived up until, you know, where we get the Kamino incident, where he goes to the remedial courses. And the interesting thing is that he finally gets that when you're a father, it's your job to protect and nurture your son and be something that your son can be proud of. It is not all about how you feel, what you want, what will make you happy. And that's a lesson that never crossed his mind. And I think, if we're being honest, most parents don't realize that it's their job to make their kid proud, not the other way around. You're supposed to be there for your child. You're supposed to motivate your child, encourage your child, nurture your child. And Endeavor only saw it as, I can mold him into another weapon, another hero. I can decide his future for him. This is actually something that, if you think back to Kyokujiro, her storyline where she goes and talks to her parents and says, I don't want to do music, I want to be a hero. She's terrified of them being like just disappointed and just downright, like, she's like worried they're going to be angry with her. And she's like, no, no, no. They tell her, no, that is your passion. We did music because we like the idea of making people happy and it is fun for us. But being a hero is helping people and doing something very similar. So go for it. You're still trying to spread positivity. You're still trying to be a good person. And that's what's important. Being a parent is something that Horikoshi has done a really good job of emphasizing, and the different directions that a parent can go and the ways that they impact their children. So the remedial course arc, he tells Shoto, I want to be a hero and a father that you can be proud of. Obviously, we don't get a lot of focus on Shoto after the remedial course arc because we immediately shift gears into the Culture Festival, or what I like to call the Rescuing Eri saga, which branches from the beginning of Overhaul to the end of the Culture Festival, essentially. But that's okay, because the Culture Festival ends and we get the Pro Hero arc. The arc that finally got Enji Todoroki to look like more than just an abusive dude that occasionally shows up to kick ass. During this arc, he's figuring out what it means to be the number one hero, how to become the symbol of peace, and Hawks is kind of like, hey, I want you, big guy. You're the big guy now, so I want to help you reach the top, be like this big inspiration, all these other things. And so they're, and also he tells me he wants to help him investigate the Nomu. Obviously, this is a half-truth because he did want Endeavor to fight Nomu. It's just that they weren't rumors of Nomu. It was literally the League and him were setting up a hero to fight the Nomu. And it just so happened to be Hood Chain, who probably only Endeavor could beat, based on what we've seen from the pro heroes, if I'm being honest. So, and throughout that fight, you see a lot of different sides of, or like the way Endeavor thinks, the way he fights, his intelligence and action, what makes him capable of being that, high up. You see him literally getting dragged through multiple buildings. You see him maintaining flight, which we didn't know he could do. Like it was obviously based on like physics and like using flames for thrust, and it's a very common thing to actually see, but it was never confirmed. So that was kind of like a cool thing to see. And he even states like I'm not really like flying so much as I'm not falling, but if you pay more attention, he actually aims his hands to control thrust and where he's going. So like he technically can kind of fly, uh, but he's being a little humble about it, which is interesting. Uh, but the thing is that you notice when the building is going to come down, he prioritizes, stopping the building from falling on people. He prioritizes like trying to get the Nomu and like have it focus on fighting specifically him. And one of the things that you realize is that Endeavor, who is known for being really violent, as soon as he realized the thing was smart, did try to capture it. He did want to be able to capture it. It's just with the amount of destruction that the guy caused, there was just no way that was going to happen. And he immediately understood that situation, had the presence of mind to go, no, I just need to stop this. I need to end it. And that's when he tries his first prominence burn. And the thing is that that attack would have succeeded if Hood Chain weren't capable of ripping his own head off. A neat little trick. So as we're watching this unfold, he gets his eye cut open, he falls to the ground, multiple stories. There was some debate on whether or not he was going to get up, whether he was going to die that arc. I was kind of in the camp of he's getting up, but it is what it is. As it progresses, though, he says things that are kind of important or like really consider. Like, this eye is going out, but I'm still focused on victory. One of the main things, though, as you get towards the end, as he finally, like the man who stood in isolation, first of all, calls on Hawks. He literally screams out to Hawks to help him. And what he was going for was for Hawks to get him to go up higher, higher, you know, um, and just away from the building so he could like really do his, biggest attack possible. But the thing is that when you see someone who's been so focused on becoming number one, so focused on how strong they are, it's interesting that he was willing to admit that no, he did need Hawks' help. And he acknowledged that yes, he is not as strong as the Nomu. He's not as fast as the Nomu. He's basically just fighting him on sheer grit and willpower. But one of the things that nobody I've seen on YouTube, or really like when people discuss Endeavor online, talks about is that Endeavor did actually manifest self-hatred. And where this is like obvious, I don't remember exactly what, like the scanlation translations were or whatever, but one of the things that's important is that while he's doing the final moments against Hood Chain, he says to him, "You are me, or rather, a me from my past or some twisted future, obsessed with power, multiple quirks. You need to burn away." And then that's when he says, "I hated the school model, plus ultra prominence burn." The thing is that when you say that something is like you, but you also acknowledge that it deserves to be burned from existence, Endeavor is essentially acknowledging that he kind of doesn't deserve to live for the kind of person that he is. A person who hurt his children, who scarred his wife forever, a person who has done all these damages. He fully understands, I don't actually deserve to be here anymore. But he understands that he has the responsibility as a hero to still be there for people even when he's ripped apart inside. It's kind of like a parallel to All Might, who on a physical level received massive wounds, massive damage to his internal organs, was completely eviscerated, but he kept persevering through all these physical internal injuries. Endeavor's injuries and wounds are psychological, and that's what he has to go beyond and push beyond in order to maintain his status as a hero and to be there for the people of society, eventually mirroring All Might's final pose at the end. And this is even further shown that he understands that he does not deserve these things or this extra love, because when he goes home and finally gets to sit down and talk about, to Shoto, to Natsuo, he fully says, I don't really deserve, forgiveness. I'm just going to do whatever I can to atone while I'm here because that's the right thing to do. He understands completely that he just doesn't, he has not done enough to earn forgiveness. He's just simply trying to get it. But Shoto does acknowledge this guy, Endeavor, is a great hero. So when you ask yourself, what does it mean to be a hero in the My Hero Academia verse? I think it's important to ask yourself, what does a hero do? What is a hero's role? And it is to be a protector, it is to be a guardian. And finally, he was starting to inspire people. Now, one of the things that I left off because I wanted to save it for the end of this video is Kenshisi-kun, the kid who became a meme in the My Hero Academia verse, which in of itself is more of a sociological commentary that I really love that Todoroki included, because he's acknowledging the way our society is structured. The My Hero Academia verse is supposed to be our world, but in the future with quirks and superpowers. So acknowledging memes, the going viral trends and all these other things was kind of a really big deal to me. Just acknowledging the sociological state of the world around. That being said, one of the first things that happens between Kenshisi-kun and Endeavor is that Endeavor tries to reach out to him and be friendly, and the first thing he does is balk at that. He's like, Endeavor's too cool for this. That's not who he is. He's not that kind of person. And the thing is that in those moments, he's basically the fandom. The kid's purpose is to be the fandom. You see him in the beginning, and he's completely rejecting Endeavor, which is exactly how many of us felt. Like I take that back. He's not completely rejecting Endeavor. He accepts Endeavor's power, he accepts Endeavor's strength, but as a person, he's like, oh no, that's just not who you are. Like being a good person and kind and to your followers and fans, no, that's not what Endeavor's about. And so, to the extent that he just kind of like runs away from it because it seems fake, which is how some people still feel about Endeavor, that it's a hollow redemption and that he's not actually, becoming a better person, which is fascinating in of itself because he himself has stated directly, that he didn't really deserve to live, that he's not a good father. He acknowledges those things, he says his flaws, and he does what I consider to be the most proper way to seek forgiveness, which is acknowledging that it's entirely up to that person. But the thing that's important about Kenshisi-kun is that as you move forward, when people are doubting him and again, like he's fallen, he's just not that great, he's not gonna, achieve much, we have to go, we can't believe in him. He asks people to like look and actually see what he is doing. Look and see that this man is literally fighting for all of our lives. So in the same way where we look at Endeavor, and in those moments we see the guy who beat Shoto, the guy who beat his wife, the guy who ruined these children, you also need to be able to look at him and objectively acknowledge that in that moment he is fighting for I won't say hundreds of thousands of lives, but depending on the population, considering Japan's population density, it very well could have been hundreds of thousands of lives. At the very least, thousands of lives. He was in a decently sized city, and hood chain was popping off. And that's something that I think was kind of like a little light that a lot of people, can't you see that Endeavor is still fighting for people? Can't you see that Endeavor still does good in this world? Can't you see that Endeavor is still a hero, even if Enji Todoroki is a completely broken and fundamentally flawed father and man and husband? Can't you see what he's actually doing right in front of you? And I don't think a lot of people could, even after having such a pivotal moment just stated right there on the camera. And that's something that I thought was fascinating that Horikoshi further wove into the narrative, because he said it himself in the story, that kid actually did influence the way the media was handling the situation, being asked to look and see with your own eyes what's happening as you see flames sprouting over buildings because this guy is going that hard to fight against something that has already, in theory, taken his eye, given him a free splenectomy, and dragged him through at least 4 buildings. But can't you see that he is still going? So the reality is that Endeavor, yeah, he has what it takes to be a hero. And in the My Hero Academia verse, I think what we're exploring is heroes aren't perfect. Even in real society, there are plenty of people that people laud and love, but they have their own separate issues. People love Margaret Sanger. She also hung out with the Ku Klux Klan a lot. People love Martin Luther King. He cheated on his wife a lot. There's just a lot of examples in history of these people who are lauded as heroes, but they are tragically flawed in their personal lives. So can't you see that when it comes down to whether or not he's got what it takes to be a hero, Endeavor definitely does. Aniki out.